What is good, guys? It is your host, Mr. Ghost, with the Real Talk Podcast. The end is near for this government shutdown. We're not officially there yet. We're 41 days in, but on the 40th day, we're able to do a test vote, and they were able to get a lot of Democrats on their side to say, you know what, let's reopen the government. And the irony of all of this, guys, is that we're reopening the government, and within the next day or two, when it goes to the official count and eventually brought to the president's desk, is that the Democrats are basically voting for the same CR that was put on the desk. Exactly the same CR. It has, to me as an American, regardless of what political spectrum you're on, it has to make no sense. Okay, Democrats were so hard on getting the COVID era subsidies extended another year to make healthcare more affordable. And Republicans said, hey, listen, let's keep the government open. Here's a clean CR. I promise we're going to discuss it and we're going to fix healthcare at a later date. The Democrats obviously just threw a fit about that. They wanted it in the CR. You know what I'm saying? And I get it, I think every American, Republican, Democrat would want affordable health care within this country. I don't think nobody's ever against that. Now, we could debate all day about Obamacare and how it's riddled with fraud. And for your little your FYI, for your own information, when it comes to these subsidies, they don't go to you, the American people. These subsidies goes to the insurance companies. So, and plus, there's no real cap on income. And that's not there's not even a cap on the maximum amount of premiums insurance companies are going to be allowed to charge. So there's no guarantee of affordability. Yes, we're getting less and less people that are needing health care in this country. We're seeing more people that are getting health care in this country, but the affordability of health care in this country is not going down. It's going up. So we all could sit here and agree with the Democrats. Yeah, we want healthcare to be affordable, but pump the brakes, honey boo boo. Don't blame the Republicans for this crisis. It was your president, Obama, that passed this. You guys rushed it through with some hallmark deal without really looking at the effects 10, 15, 20 years later. You can't do that. You got to study things. You got to look into things. What are the effects of this policy, of this law, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, even 50 years down the road? They didn't do that. So that's why we're into this healthcare crisis. So the original CR pretty much is what they voted for. And I'm not surprised it took moderates and centrists to come to the table and you know what? This is hurting too many American people. And listen, I'll give you my take why I believe this happened, and it will shock you. Stay tuned. All right, let's get to not this screen, this screen. Let's press play.
Right now, the end may be near for the longest government shutdown in history after 8 Democrats, including our next guest, voted with Republicans to break the filibuster.
This is a long one, guys. Stay tuned.
Step. Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen joins us now to talk about it. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Can you give us an idea and our viewers an idea what happened behind the scenes to have you, Senator Kaine, Angus King, Catherine Cortez Masto, Jackie Rosen, and John Fetterman, as well as Maggie Hassan and Dick Durbin, all come together to get to the 60 threshold? Can you bring us behind the scenes for that?
Well, there had been discussions going on really since the shutdown about how could we work together to end this? How could we make sure that we can address health care costs for the millions of Americans who are seeing their health care costs rise as the result of the bill that was passed in the summer that the president wanted. And so I think this.
Just real quick, I know we're only about a minute into this. The healthcare costs in this country, ma'am, is simply because of Obamacare. And there's no real checks and balances on Obamacare. Our government is writing blank checks to these big insurance companies without having caps on income or even having caps on the amount of premiums going to be charged. I think we should look into it. I'm just saying.
This agreement gives us an opportunity to continue to do that work. We're going to have a vote, and I believe there are a number of Republicans who are going to join us in trying to address health care costs for Americans, but we're also turning the government back on. We're making sure that the people of America can get the food benefits that they need, that air traffic controllers can get paid, that federal workers are able to come back, the ones who were let go, that they get paid, that contractors get paid, that aviation moves forward. So we are going to be able to continue to fight about health care because we're going to have a vote in December.
So Senator Chuck Schumer, your leader on the Senate, said, I cannot support a continuing resolution that fails to address health care. I am voting no. Did you do this outside leadership, and was there a big push for you not to join the others and break the 60 threshold?
No, we kept leadership informed throughout. And I think it's important to remember who's responsible for why we got into this shutdown. We are here because we are concerned about the health care costs rising significantly on millions of Americans. Yep. And we didn't have any indication before the shutdown started that our Republican colleagues were willing to address it. Now, Speaker Johnson is going to have to bring the House back in. He's been AWOL since the beginning of September when we were in the middle of the shutdown.
Quick context, what she just said. He's AWOL because they did their job. The House did their job. They're not in charge of the Senate, just so you guys are aware.
Leader Thune has agreed that we will have a bill that we will write that will give us an opportunity to work on those health care costs. And we believe there are a lot of Republicans, including a lot of Trump supporters, who want to see us do something about this because their costs are going up. If you look at who benefits from these premium tax credits, 76% of the recipients are in states that Donald Trump won in the last presidential election.
Right. And just to give you people at home an idea of how everyone weighed in, this came down late last night. A lot of people who were still in bed did not know it. Bernie Sanders comes out and says it was a very bad night. I told you what Schumer said. And then Ro Khanna over in the House says Senator Schumer is no longer effective. And
so pretty much this guy is a socialist nut job. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how that's a very bad night for America. How is it a bad night for America? People are going to get food. Workers are going back to work. Our government is going to be open. You need to be voted. And this is why, guys, stop voting for socialist idiots. Okay, this guy complained about millionaires. Bernie Sanders complained about millionaires until he became a millionaire. And now he complains about billionaires. This guy here is a complete joke. You know what I'm saying? America is in the midst of a Republican-made healthcare crisis. Last time I checked, buddy, your healthcare crisis was created by Barack Hussein Obama, a Democratic president. You guys voted Obamacare into law without no real studies on it, and we've watched it completely be riddled with fraud. So please stop blaming the Republicans. A crisis so severe, so urgent, so devastating for the American families that cannot support a continuing resolution that fails to address it. He needs to be gone. And this guy's just saying that this guy has to go. And guys, stop voting grandpas within our Congress. But also don't vote the socialists in.
Placed. If you can't lead the right to stop health care and premiums from skyrocketing for Americans, what will you fight for? Well, after the longest shutdown in history, I think that's fighting. But what is your take on what Ro Khanna is saying? Do you think Chuck Schumer should leave leadership?
Well, I hope that people who are concerned about health care will stay focused on who's responsible for why we're in this situation. It's because Speaker Johnson has been unwilling to take up legislation. It's because President Trump has failed to weigh in and understand what a big issue this is for Americans. Now, hopefully, both of them will now figure out that they've got to do something about this because people are hurting. President Trump talked a lot about affordability over the weekend. Well, this is a big affordability issue for millions of Americans. We need to do something about it. This agreement gives us an opportunity to continue that fight.
Senator, you're known as one of the most reasonable people in the Senate. So as much as healthcare is an issue, you know better than anyone when those healthcare subsidies were passed, that was supposed to sunset. That was how it was written. So they never were supposed to continue to begin with. It's just even though the objective of giving people quality healthcare is always admirable, continuing these subsidies was never the intent of the Democratic president.
No, I just disagree with that. I sponsored the legislation in 2019 that was introduced. I sponsored it again when we did it during COVID. I sponsored it again when we did it after COVID. And I urged an extension of these affordable tax credits because I knew how important they are to millions of Americans.
I have to backtrack on what she's saying. If it was so important that you want affordable healthcare insurance for the American people, you should have written the law to be permanent, not to have an expiration date. I'm a firm believer if you're going to pass some type of law, okay, and that law is meant to benefit the American people, and you have to renew it every 4 years, pass it to be permanent. I'm a firm believer that it had sunset dates to see how much more money they can milk out of the American people in order to fund these healthcare insurance companies that will funnel the money back into their campaigns. Follow the money. Listen, I think our government needs, an oversight committee needs to follow the money. Where are these premiums going to? Are there Congress members, regardless of what political spectrum they're on, are getting kickbacks through campaign finances by these big insurance companies? It is crazy, but let her continue.
Americans who are now not going to be able to afford their health insurance, and that's going to have a ripple effect throughout the health system. So this is something that we have tried to extend for literally months this year, and we have been 4 times I moved to extend those affordable premium tax credits, and 4 times they were denied by the majority in the Senate.
And Senator, do you agree that the reason why you need additional subsidies is because the Obamacare Affordable Care Act isn't working? These are emergency fixes. It's spackle on something that's bursting at the seams.
Yep.
Do you agree with that?
Actually, I don't agree with that. In New Hampshire, we have had 4 consecutive years where we have both reduced the number of people who are uninsured and reduced the costs of premiums. Now, is there work we need to do? Absolutely. And I hope now that Republicans and the president will come to the table and agree that we need to address health care more broadly for those people who can't afford it.
I think it's a great point. Now, do you think that others might join you and get past the 60? And do you worry about the 60 threshold being somewhat tenuous and pressure could change people's vote by the time we have the real vote?
No, I don't worry about that because I think people are looking at the millions of Americans who have been affected by this shutdown, the people who are struggling to get food. And I was disappointed that President Trump has refused to fund the SNAP benefits, the first president during a shutdown who refused to make sure that people could continue to eat.
But you know that was put forward as a solo option, and it was rejected. They only had the same Democrats voting for it. There was SNAP benefits, individual, military pay, individual, and it was all rejected.
But we're in an agreement now that will fund those food benefits for people. It will bring back federal employees who were let go during the shutdown. It will make sure that everybody gets their back pay, that contractors get their back pay. That's important. We need to get this economy moving again. That's why what I'm focused on, as well as making sure we get a vote and we do something about the cost of health care for millions of Americans.
I'm going to pause it right there real quick. There was a bill put on the table for an essential programs and essential workers, and every freaking Democrat voted against it. I got a reason why I think they did this, and I'll give you that towards the end. But it is ridiculous that see how quickly she deflected from that. She quickly deflected from it because she knows if she answers for that, it's going to be egg on the face. because there was a bill put on the table. And when it comes to President Trump not wanting affordable health care, he's the one that's going after these pharmaceutical companies, these big insurance companies, and making certain medications affordable again. Listen, I know from personal experience how broken this healthcare system is, okay? When it comes to our system here in America, especially with insurances. Put it as this, okay? I have what's called obstructive sleep apnea. Okay, basically I stop breathing in my sleep and it's like cold blue, okay? Don't have to go into the scientifics of it or the health, whatever. But the whole point is, though, I had to be switched to a BiPAP machine, from CPAP to BiPAP. It took a year for my insurance company to approve that. I want that to set in for my viewers. A year for my insurance company to say, yep, he really needs it. Not the fact that my doctors are telling him, hey, he's literally flatlining, his oxygen is dropping, he's getting hypoxia within his sleep, he's going to die without it. Oh, we need more proof. As I said, these insurance companies are riddled with flaws, and it needs to be fixed.
And I'm sure Senator Thune gives you his word. His word is good. And I'm sure you
I believe
that.
his word is good.
I do too. Thanks so much for doing this. Thanks for doing the show. And hopefully it's a glide path to getting our government open again. Thanks, Senator.
So it's the original CR that was put on the table for the Senate to vote on. That's basically what they're going to approve. Okay? And I'm glad that this host kicked back at her and tried to literally like put it in her face. Hey, listen, there was a bill put forward that would fund the government, for example, in essential programs such as SNAP, Medicaid, Medicare, all that, as well as paying essential workers, and all Democrats voted against it. I'm kind of happy to see a host literally throw that back at the Democrats' face, because at the end of the day, you got to hold these people accountable. I don't want to hear this about affordability. I don't want to hear that you stand for the American people, because when that bill went on the table, you should immediately said voted for it, then argue all the other substances later. But we're going to take a quick look at Speaker Johnson's take on it, and I'll give you my full concise at the end of that one and give you my reasoning why I think this took place, and it should piss off every American that is watching this or any American that hears about this. All right.
All right, joining me now, let's go to the aforementioned House Speaker Mike Johnson from Louisiana. Speaker Johnson, I loved your quote. It's the beginning of the end of the shutdown.
Yes, sir.
Very Churchillian. I like that very much. But at the end of this whole thing, they're basically going back to your CR. I know there's a few add-ons here, veterans construction, military construction, but basically they could have just voted yes on your CR in the first place. And I don't understand how stupid this is. And I think millions of Americans are very aggravated over this.
Oh, yeah. They are, and you're right, it was stupid to use your word, and my word is utterly pointless. I mean, 40 days we've had the country wandering in the wilderness because of the Democrats' intransigence, and they've made the American people suffer needlessly. And at the end of all this, you now have a handful of Democrats who have come to their senses. They're prepared to do the right thing, reopen the government. They're going to do, Larry, to your point, exactly what we asked them to do weeks ago. I mean, all of this was really for nothing. And it's so sad that they have used the American people as their leverage, that's their own quote, as pawns in this political game so that Chuck Schumer could have political cover back in New York. I mean, it's really unconscionable.
I don't understand it. He didn't even get, it's the idea of political coverage. He may be in a lot of hot water himself. Actually, the New York Giants just fired their football coach. That could be apocryphal. I wonder if Mr. Schumer is looking at that. Such things happen in life. He didn't even get that. And the left wing of the party is probably furious at him, so the civil war continues. I mean, Mr. Speaker, I don't understand it. I've seen a bunch of these before. I've lived through a couple of these before. I don't understand it. I am glad if you get this thing done. Maybe you could just walk us through, sir, some process. Now, it's not quite a done deal. As you say, Churchillianly, it's the beginning of the end. So what must happen? We need to get a vote in the Senate, and then what happens, and then when's that vote going to come?
Well, that's the big question right now. The latest update, I'm just down the hall from the Senate chamber. Rand Paul, maybe a couple others are gumming up the works, so to speak. They're holding this up a bit because they have a couple of little parochial priorities that they want to use as leverage to get the final vote. But we're hoping that they will fast track this. I mean, if they wanted to, they could probably drag this out into the weekend, but that would just exact a whole other level of pain on the American people when they can least afford it. So we're praying that they get about the business, fast track this thing. I have already put the House on notice that all members are to be headed back to the Hill right now. I would like for us to be voting on this as early as Wednesday, which would be the quickest we could process it if the Senate does their work. And I think we'll get it passed off the House floor, get it to the President's desk. He is anxious to have it. As you know, he is very anxious, happy to get the government reopened, and he's been working on that every day since this shutdown.
You know, it's interesting to me, sir. The stock market rallying today, almost 400 points on the Dow, and the techie stocks, everything went up today. I'm not going to badger you on the stock market, but, Mr. Speaker, I think the message here is people would rather have the government go about its business. Even though I might not like a lot of the government business, the fact is certain things have to be done. I mean, the military is one of them, the airplanes, the airlines, the controllers. We don't want planes crashing in the sky. That government minimally should stay open. I mean, I think that's the stock market message. I don't know if Democrats understand that or who understands it, but that's got to be part of the message.
Well, that's right. I mean, obviously, you and I are limited government conservatives. We want a smaller, leaner government that's smaller in scope and does things more efficiently and effectively. But there are essential services that must be performed. It's not just troop pay. It's Border Patrol and TSA agents, air traffic controllers, as you said. A lot of the essential functions of the federal government that must go forward. And we can't hold it up. And I think the markets also respond. They want stability, obviously. They want things that are foreseeable. They don't like this unrest and disruption. And what the Democrats have proven here is that they're willing to take the country hostage for political stunts. And it didn't yield anything other than really shake the confidence of the American people. So we're ready to get back to that, to begin governing again, but get back to the regular legislative session. And we've got a lot on our plate before the end of the calendar year because the Democrats took so much of that time off of that schedule.
Mr. Speaker, President Trump has suggested that some of these air traffic controllers who walked off the job, which is illegal, should be fined. He's also saying those who stayed on the job should be getting a $10,000 bonus. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like the concept. I mean, the devil's in the details. We have to figure out from where that money will come, and Congress has to allocate the funds. But look, it's a very stressful job. They were doing it without pay, and our hearts go out to them. A lot of sympathy for the people that already have a difficult task ahead of them. But then when they're not sure how to feed their family, it adds a whole another layer of complexity on that. So I've got a lot of sympathy for the people who, at great personal sacrifice, are still doing that job, and they should be rewarded for it.
President.
So after 40 days of posturing, gaslighting, and doing everything in their power to prevent the government from reopening, 8 Democrats came to the table and said, hey, we're going to vote yes. Let's reopen the government. We'll take you based upon the face value of your word that we'll negotiate health care in sometime in December. By the way, that's the same type of proposal by the House. The only thing that's a little bit different is that they added 2 little extra things, so that's why it has to go back to the House and get voted on by the House in order to get that full passage. Then it'll eventually end up in the president's desk by sometime of the end of the week, and it's good. I know a lot of Americans are hurting from this. I know a lot of Americans were scared because of this. But I'm going to address you in the nicest way possible. I know a lot of people don't understand civics when it comes to our government and how our government works. And I get it. You know, you're going to blame the party that's in charge. You know what I'm saying? If they control the House, the Senate, and as well the House, they should be able to get things done. But once again, in the Senate, you need that 60 in order to break the filibuster. And that's a good thing for our country. You know what I'm saying? It keeps that little checks and balances. But you got to start asking the question, why was this done? Why did the Democrats hold on for so long? Was it really about the healthcare subsidies? You know, for our insurance premiums. I say this, you follow the money, okay? And if you follow that money, you might see a lot of kickback to the campaigns of a lot of Congress members. Food for thought. But another reason why, obviously, the power grab is the big thing. I think they were after. Obviously, it being an off election year, you know what I'm saying? They end up winning a few places throughout the country. A lot of Democratic strongholds, of course, but still, they end up winning areas where they're supposed to win. And because of the hurting and everything else happening, they voted in a commie in New York City. Do I believe the Democrats did it because of a power grab? Wouldn't it surprise me? It's not the first time they've done it. We've had 11 shutdowns. 7 of those were Democrat-led because they couldn't come to the table and get across the board with the Republicans. And when it comes down to the substance of it, a lot of those that were hurting because of this were Republicans. A lot of those that were hurting were Trump supporters. They did this, and my main reason, what I really think why they did this, was to hurt Trump supporters, to hurt the Republican brand, to try to hurt the red party because they had such a massive red wave. And they figure if they could stop Trump's agenda from all this winning, successful after success, they might get a little bit of a leverage. But I think these 8 individuals that came across the board understood the writing on the wall. That the further this went along, the more disastrous I think this would have been for the Democratic Party. There is a civil war within that party. You have a lot of socialists that are rising up in the ranks that want socialism in the United States. And we must remain alert and vigilant and vote red as much as possible to prevent socialism in the United States of America. With that being said, guys, I yield my floor. God bless you guys, and I'm going to catch you all in the next.